Hey man, there's a moment in every man's life where the curtain gets pulled back. Sometimes it happens after heartbreak, sometimes after betrayal, and sometimes when he's lying awake at 3 a.m. trying to make sense of a woman who said one thing and did the complete opposite. That's the moment he learns the truth. Not the kind you find in romantic movies or on Instagram quotes, but the real gritty truth. The dark truth about women that no one tells you until it's too late. And that is this: she doesn't love you for who you are. She loves you for how you make her feel. And the second that feeling dies, so does her loyalty. That's the kind of truth that shatters illusions, but it also sets you free. You see, we've been sold a lie since we were boys, that love is unconditional. That if you're good, respectful, available, and supportive, she'll stay. But reality doesn't work like that. Women aren't loyal to men, they're loyal to emotion. It's not about what you've done. It's not about how much you care. It's about the vibe, the spark, the feeling. And when that feeling fades, she doesn't sit down and talk through it like you expect. She detaches, emotionally first, then physically, then she disappears. All while you're still stuck, trying to fix what already died in her heart weeks ago. Most men think relationships are like building a house. Lay a strong foundation, put in the work, stay consistent, be reliable. That's how you create something that lasts. And that's true in a man's world. But in a woman's world, it's not the house that matters, it's how warm the fire feels inside. And the moment that fire dies, she doesn't rebuild. She moves to another fireplace. And you're left standing there wondering how someone could leave after everything you built together. It's because you were building permanence, but she was chasing a feeling. And here's where it gets darker. Most women don't even realize they're doing this, because their entire reality is shaped by emotion. When she says, "I love you," she means it in that moment. But if tomorrow she wakes up feeling different, that "I love you" becomes a memory. She wasn't lying, she just felt differently. And in her world, that's not betrayal, that's just truth. And if you try to confront her with facts, timelines, or consistency, she'll look at you like you're the crazy one. Because to her, the past doesn't exist, only the present emotion matters. This is why good men get destroyed. Because they hold on to logic, structure, commitment. They try to argue, reason, explain. They say, "But I was there for you, but I supported you, but I loved you," and none of it lands. Because she's no longer in that emotional space. You're speaking a language she doesn't hear anymore. And by the time you realize she's already gone mentally, her body's just waiting to catch up. You don't even notice she's planning the exit until one day she's cold, distant, unreachable, and then gone. And you're left trying to solve a puzzle that no longer exists. Let's go deeper. Every woman, whether she knows it or not, is constantly testing you. Not because she's evil, but because she has to. It's part of her biology. She's designed to seek strength, stability, leadership. And the only way she can tell if you're the real thing is to test your frame. She'll challenge your authority, question your confidence, flirt with the boundaries, and if you fold, if you chase, if you explain too much, she'll lose respect. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. Respect isn't a choice. It's a visceral reaction to masculine energy, or the lack of it. And that's when most men fall apart. They think being understanding, flexible, emotionally available will make her love them more. And in the beginning, it might. But over time, that softness starts to feel like weakness. That emotional vulnerability turns into emotional neediness. And what once felt like connection now feels like weight. She starts pulling away, starts comparing you to other men, starts creating problems out of thin air. Why? Because she's bored. Because the polarity is gone. Because you stopped being the challenge and became the comfort. And women don't crave comfort the way men do. They crave tension, presence, direction. Here's another brutal truth. When a woman feels like she's got you fully, completely without effort, she devalues you. It's not a conscious decision, it's psychological. The less effort she has to put in, the less worth she assigns to the connection. This is why women obsess over men who ignore them, but ghost the ones who show up every time. It's not logical, it's emotional economics. She assigns value based on scarcity, and the moment your attention becomes unlimited, your value drops. Not because you're any less of a man, but because her brain stops assigning urgency to keep you. That's why detachment is your weapon, not coldness, not bitterness, but controlled emotional distance. A man who can care without clinging is irresistible. A man who can lead without chasing is unforgettable. You don't need to play games, you just need to live in your own frame. Be so grounded in your purpose, your mission, your vision, that she feels lucky just to be around you. Not because you're trying to impress her, but because your energy says, I'm good with or without you. That's the energy that pulls her in. That's the masculine polarity that never fades. But you'll only learn this after you've been broken. After you've given everything to the wrong woman, after you've tried to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed, after you've sacrificed your boundaries for a woman who couldn't appreciate them, that's when the light comes on. That's when you realize women don't want perfection. They want presence. They don't want emotional chaos. They want leadership. They don't want a man who bends to their will. They want a man who stands so tall in his truth that her illusions melt in front of him. And once you learn that, you never go back. Most men don't understand how deep the fantasy goes for women. It's not just about wanting a love story, it's about needing one to justify everything she feels. She'll take small gestures and inflate them into grand romance. She'll take tension and twist it into a sign from the universe. And when you disappoint her fantasy, when reality starts to seep in, she won't tell you. She'll silently resent you. She'll mentally compare you to that dream version in her head. And eventually, she'll blame you for not living up to something you never even agreed to play. This is the part that hurts the most, because you weren't trying to deceive her, but she was already living in a story you didn't write. It's why so many men feel like they're being punished for things they didn't do. You say something harmless, and she flips. You miss one call and she spirals. You think she's reacting to the moment, but she's not. She's reacting to her feelings about the moment. Feelings that have been built up through years of expectations, heartbreaks, and personal narratives. You just happen to trigger the landmine. And here's the hard part. There's no fixing that with logic. You can't out-argue emotion. You can't debate your way into her heart. And the sooner you stop trying, the sooner you start protecting your own. The most dangerous trap men fall into is believing that love is earned, that if you just do enough, give enough, care enough, she'll stay. But love that's conditional isn't love, it's leverage. And once she knows you'll do anything to keep her, she stops respecting you. She starts seeing you as a tool, a source of validation, security, resources. And when someone better comes along, someone who makes her feel more, she'll jump. And you'll be sitting there with your loyalty in one hand and confusion in the other, wondering why she left after all you gave. It's because you gave too much to someone who was only giving based on emotion. And that's why indifference is often more powerful than affection. Not because you don't care, but because you don't need to care. A man who can walk away at any moment is a man who holds all the power. And women know this. They'll test you for it. They'll push to see if your love is stronger than your standards. And when you bend, they smile. Not because they love you more, but because they own you now. And once that happens, attraction begins to die. Because women don't want a man they can control. They want a man they can submit to, but only if he's earned it through strength, not begging. The sad part is that most women don't even know they're doing it. It's instinctual, subconscious, cultural. They've been taught to follow the feeling, not the truth, and feelings change, so they drift, they explore, they rationalize betrayal as growth, they mistake discomfort for danger, and the man who tries to hold everything together, he becomes the villain in her story of liberation. She'll tell her friends he was too controlling, too needy, too intense, but the truth, he was just consistent, and consistency is boring to someone addicted to chaos. But here's the moment, everything shifts when you stop asking why, when you stop trying to understand her emotional roller coaster, when you stop trying to meet her where she's at, and instead stand where you are. That's the birth of masculine power. That's the moment you stop reacting and start leading, and the women who can't handle it, they'll fall away. But the ones who are ready, the ones who've been burned by their own illusions, they'll feel it, and they'll follow, not because you chased, but because you stopped chasing. The hardest part about this truth is how lonely it feels at first. You'll walk away from women you once thought were the one. You'll sit in silence while your old self screams for validation. You'll question if you're being cold, heartless, too distant. But then it clicks, you're not being cold, you're being clear. And clarity is terrifying to people who live in fog. When you start showing up as the real version of you, not the people-pleasing version, you start repelling everything that's fake, and what's left, that's your foundation. That's your kingdom. The mistake men make is thinking that loss is the end, but it's not, it's the beginning. Every time a woman leaves because you stood your ground, you get stronger. Every time she ghosts you for not chasing, you gain value. Every time you say no to emotional manipulation, you sharpen your edge. You're not losing women, you're losing illusions. And once they're gone, you stop trying to impress the ones who were never built to ride with you anyway. That's not loss, that's liberation. Most women today are addicted to short-term highs, to instant attention, to emotional fantasy, and men who operate in reality are boring to them. You'll be called cold, arrogant, too serious. But don't flinch, don't explain, just be. Because the moment you try to convince her of your worth, you lose it. A king doesn't campaign, a warrior doesn't beg, a man on his purpose doesn't pause to fix every insecure woman who stumbles into his path. Let her learn the hard way, let her fantasize about someone else. You're not here to be her entertainment, you're here to build. And when you finally learn this, when you finally understand the dark truth about women, you'll stop feeling broken. You'll stop playing the nice guy. You'll stop chasing ghosts. You'll start choosing women who are aligned, who are healed, who don't run at the first sign of structure. You'll start moving differently, talking less, standing taller, and the world will feel it. Your ex will feel it. Every woman who thought she could control you will feel it. And when they do, some will come back, but you won't. Because once you know this truth, you don't ever go back to pretending. Here's another piece of that dark truth. Women don't see your sacrifice the way you do. You work extra hours, thinking you're securing the future. You bite your tongue during arguments, thinking you're keeping the peace. You overlook red flags, thinking you're choosing love over ego. But to her, those things don't register as love. They register as passivity, as weakness, as a man who doesn't lead. She won't tell you that. She'll smile and say thank you. But inside, something dims. Her attraction fades, not because you weren't loving, but because you weren't leading. And that's what she truly craves, even if she doesn't know it. When a woman tests your boundaries and you fail to enforce them, she doesn't feel more loved, she feels less safe. Women feel secure in the presence of masculine conviction. When she knows that you'll say no, that you'll walk away if necessary, that you have standards, that's when she feels anchored. But if you fold, if you let her emotions override your principles, you may think you're being compassionate, but she sees it as emotional instability. She'll start to question if you can protect her from the world, because clearly you can't even protect your own values from her mood swings. The reality is brutal, but it's necessary. The more she senses she can manipulate your emotions, the less respect she has. Not because she's cruel, but because she's wired to test. It's how she finds strength. A woman will create chaos just to see if your masculinity can hold its frame. She'll exaggerate, she'll push buttons, she'll even flirt with others, not because she wants them, but because she wants to know if you know who you are. And if you lose composure, if you become emotional, accusatory, clingy, she'll clock it, she'll never forget it, and something in her will shift forever. Men think consistency is enough, but it's not. If that consistency isn't backed by power, it's seen as routine, and routine becomes invisible. You show up every day, call her beautiful, bring her coffee, remember anniversaries, and still she starts losing interest. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because nothing's moving her anymore. Women don't want what's consistent alone, they want what's commanding. If you're not growing, she stops feeling pulled, and if she's not pulled, she drifts, emotionally first, then physically. And eventually, you're just her safety net, while she searches for excitement. A woman doesn't leave when she's done loving you, she leaves when she's done feeling you. And those two things are not the same. She can love who you are as a person, and still crave someone else. She can respect your kindness, and still fantasize about the guy who doesn't text back. This is the most painful truth men ignore, that a woman can appreciate everything you do for her, and still not desire you. Because desire doesn't grow from comfort, it grows from polarity, from tension, from mystery. Be too predictable, too available, too explainable, and she'll respect you, but she won't want you. When a woman leaves a good man, she rarely admits it was about boredom or emotional decay. She'll say, "We grew apart," or "He changed," or "I need to find myself." But those are masks for something simpler. She stopped feeling what she needed to feel, and rather than face the truth, her truth, she'll rewrite the narrative so she doesn't look like the villain. Meanwhile, you're left confused, wondering where it went wrong, replaying memories, looking for clues. But the clue was always the same. She stopped feeling excited, and you thought love was enough to stop that. It wasn't. Here's where men finally change, when they realize that being chosen by a woman is not a prize. It's not an achievement. It's a temporary invitation, and that invitation can be revoked the moment her emotions tell her a different story. That's why your focus must never be on being chosen, but on choosing yourself, on building a life, a mission, a vision so powerful that whoever enters your world either rises with it or falls away. Because if you define your worth through her acceptance, you've already lost. A man's value isn't found in a woman's affection, it's forged in the fire of his solitude. A man's peace is his most seductive quality and the most terrifying to women who live in emotional chaos. She won't understand how you can be still. She'll try to poke at it, disrupt it, test it. Not because she hates it, but because she doesn't trust it. Peace is foreign to someone addicted to drama. But if you hold the line, if you stay grounded, she'll eventually see that your calm is real. And that's when the game changes. That's when she realizes she can't shake you. And that realization is more powerful than 1,000 declarations of love. Because now she sees the one thing she's never had, a man who doesn't bend to her storm. Women are not the enemy, but neither are they the solution. They are mirrors. And if you're not whole, they'll reflect back your weakness. That's why men who seek healing through women always get broken worse. You can't outsource your strength. You can't borrow confidence. You must build it alone. And only when you have it, when your peace, your standards, your mission are intact, can you invite a woman into your world without being consumed by hers. That's when love becomes possible, not before. So here's the dark truth, brother. Until you stop romanticizing her potential, until you stop mistaking emotional highs for connection, until you stop chasing the woman who left instead of choosing the man who stayed, you will keep losing, not just her, but yourself. Because every time you bend for her chaos, you break your own spine. Every time you chase her approval, you abandon your purpose. And every time you ignore the truth because it hurts, you give away your power. But now you know. And once you know, you don't chase anymore, you lead. When you finally internalize the dark truth, the world starts to look different. You stop reading between her texts. You stop waiting for the apology. You stop clinging to old memories where she smiled like she meant it, because you realize she did mean it in that moment. But women live in moments, not mountains. They climb feelings, not foundations. And when the feeling fades, they move on like it never happened. That doesn't make her evil. It makes her emotional. You've been trying to build something permanent in a world of shifting sands, and that's why it keeps collapsing. There's a quiet rage that builds in every man who tries to love before he understands. You tried to be everything. You thought love was enough. You thought being a good man would protect you, but no one told you that the good man often suffers the most. Not because he lacks value, but because he offers it to someone who doesn't recognize it. And when she walks away, she doesn't look back. You're left holding the pieces, bleeding from wounds she'll never acknowledge. And that's where bitterness grows, unless you learn. Unless you turn that pain into power. Once you cross that threshold, once you become the man who sees it all for what it is, you change. You speak less, you move slower. You stop proving, you start choosing. Not based on attraction, but on alignment, on discipline, on values. You see through smiles. You watch patterns, and suddenly, women feel that shift. They sense your detachment, your emotional independence, and some will chase it like it's a drug. Because for the first time, they can't control you. For the first time, they don't feel bigger than you. And that feeling? It's either terrifying or intoxicating. You become rare not by being perfect, but by being unshakable. When a woman screams, you don't raise your voice. When she withdraws, you don't beg. When she tests, you don't react, you observe. And that stoicism, that frame, it's not for her, it's for you. Because you finally realize you're not here to win her love, you're here to win your own respect. And the moment that becomes your standard, everything changes. The men around you shrink. The women around you either rise or fall away. And either way, you're good, because your validation no longer lives outside your skin. The irony is, once you stop chasing women, they start chasing you. But now you're not interested in the ones who didn't want you when you were still bleeding. You're not seduced by the apologies. You don't melt at the "I miss you" texts, because you remember what it felt like to be loyal to someone who saw your effort and still left. That memory is your armor now, and you wear it not with hate, but with wisdom. You forgive her, but you never forget the lesson. Never build a future with someone who only lives in feelings. She'll come back eventually, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but when the illusions fall apart, when the guy she chased turns cold, when the validation dries up, when reality starts knocking, she'll think of you. She'll remember the consistency, the effort, the peace, and she'll want it again. But by then, you'll be different. You'll be the man she couldn't see because she was blinded by dopamine and delusion, and when she reaches out, you won't even feel revenge, just indifference, because she's not the villain anymore, she's just irrelevant. This is the power they never wanted you to find. The clarity that makes you untouchable. They want you stuck, chasing, confused, waiting, because the moment you become emotionally sovereign, you're dangerous. Not because you hurt women, but because you don't need them. And that's what women fear the most. Not abandonment, not anger, irrelevance. When you no longer orbit them, no longer adjust your emotions to match theirs, no longer rearrange your goals to accommodate their chaos, they feel it. And that feeling, that's what sets men like you apart. The dark truth about women isn't meant to make you bitter. It's meant to make you better. It's not about hating women, it's about understanding them, so you stop losing yourself in their emotions, so you stop expecting permanence from someone who was taught that love means excitement, not stability. So you stop giving your all to someone who only gives when it feels good, because when you finally see her nature, you stop blaming her for acting in accordance with it, and you start choosing whether or not to participate. Most men will never learn this truth. They'll keep trying, keep pleasing, keep sacrificing, and they'll call it love. But love without boundaries is self-betrayal. Love without clarity is confusion. And love without respect is pain. You don't need to hate women to protect yourself from them. You just need to understand that most don't know what they want until it's gone. And by the time they figure it out, the man they needed has already become the man they can't reach. So here's your final truth, brother. She was never the test. You were. She was never the prize. You are. She was never supposed to complete you. She was supposed to reveal where you were incomplete. Now you know, and now you move different. No more chasing, no more explaining, no more waiting to be chosen. From now on, you choose. From now on, you lead. From now on, you build your kingdom, not for her, but for you. And when the right woman comes along, she won't ask to be worshipped. She'll ask to serve, not because she's weak, but because you are strong.